Final Fantasy VII was one of the most successful games ever to be released on the original PlayStation. It catapulted the role-playing game genre into the mainstream at a time when video games were starting to find their footing as more than just a hobby enjoyed by people in their basements. It tackled serious themes such as capitalism, terrorism, and even death, all while delivering an enjoyable experience to players. It also brought with it one of the most memorable cast of characters, be it the main party, the villains, or even the side characters. Such was the love and adoration for Final Fantasy VII that it was long remembered by fans, even decades after it launched, with many calling for a remake. Their wishes were finally heard in 2015, with Square Enix announcing a 3-part project that would cover and expand upon the events of the original game, with the developers making some additions of their own to the core story. With the first 2 games already released, we're going to take a look at how some of the main moments of the original Final Fantasy VII have been depicted and whether or not they exceed the quality of their PS1 counterparts. Before we begin, a small disclaimer that these selections are strictly subjective and in no way represent the opinion of the entire Final Fantasy community as a whole. This generational video was brought to life thanks to the capabilities of modern-day technology, giving the developers a chance to significantly enhance it while making a few additions to depict the struggles of the people living in Midgar. While the original does remain among the most classic video game intros of all time, the remake version allows players and viewers alike to get a greater understanding of the city of Mako and how it's structured, with those living at the top of the plates enjoying a life of luxury, while those beneath them struggling to make ends meet. This is also where we got our first new look at fan favourites Aerith and Cloud, which also adds to the excitement. The stunning visuals continue to stand out in the remake, and the battle with the Guardian Scorpion is way more tense than in the original game, which was held back due to the technical limitations of the era. However, it feels as though the timer set on the bomb is made pointless in the remake, taking a lot out of what was meant to be a stressful situation. Still, this is not enough to hamper what is an incredible opening that perfectly encapsulates what is to come. We have no choice but to give this to Remake as well. This is where things begin to turn around a bit. In their effort to make a 50-hour game out of the first 10 hours of the original, the developers went out of their way to expand areas which were initially a lot shorter. This made the remake's version of the area unnecessarily tedious and long, full of encounters that felt a little out of place. While we did get a chance to learn a little more about life under the plate, this section of the game was not as good as we remember it, which is why we'll say that it was better in the original Final Fantasy VII. This is an issue that we will encounter further along the line as well. However, immediately after that, we get treated to one of the most iconic scenes in video game history, Cloud's second meeting with Aerith at the church. For the attention and care that was given to this scene alone, we've got to give another point to Remake. The music, the visuals, the work done by the voice actors, everything works so well in this scene that it almost brings a tear to the eye of those who played the original at the time it was released. Another great addition is Aerith's house, which stands out like an oasis in the desert of trash and pollution that is the Midgar Slums. Again, there are some pacing issues here, but in this case you want to stay in the area as much as possible, so that works in the remake's favour. This next one is a little tricky, but rescuing Tifa from Don Corneo's mansion seems to have gone awry in the remake. It seems the developers tried a lot not to get on anyone's bad side when creating this series of events, and while doing so, took a lot of the flavour out of it. While seeing Cloud show off his dance chops was kind of groovy, it would have been hilarious to see him try and escape a room of men in tights who wanted a piece of him. In 1997, a game developer could get away with a lot more of what would now be considered controversial content, but while doing so, they were free to be as funny as they wanted as well. Speaking from a strictly development point of view, this area's design was unnecessarily complicated in the remake version. So many twists and turns make it easy to get lost, which is why we'd stick with the original version of Wall Market. This section is also tricky because, honestly, I don't remember enjoying it in either version. In the original, it was just a bunch of corridors and random encounters that you had to get through to make it back to Sector 7. The remake version tried to spice it up by adding some story beats about a playful ghost at the train station and another part about Aerith's past, but rather than making it more fun, it just felt like they were making what was a forgettable part of the game unbearably longer. Which is why we'd go with a short and not so sweet version of the original. This is where the remake truly shines, in bringing life and adding real sentiment to moments like the loss of Biggs and Jesse or Aerith's struggle to find Marlene. It made some players go back to those times when they first experienced these moments in their youth, while first-timers could really feel that excitement of what made this game so special in the first place. The stunning visual with the explosion at the end, the battle with Reno and Rude, the amazing performance by Barrett's voice actor John Eric Bentley in the aftermath all come together to create an incredible sequence of events that take what the original had to offer and kick it up to 11. This covers a major segment of both games, so we might have to break it down a bit. Getting to Shinra HQ is a bit forgettable in either version of the game, so we might just skip it. The iconic approach to the building, with Cloud posing with a Buster Sword on his back, is made even better in the remade version, because it demonstrates how much of a monstrosity this structure truly is. However, after this, the player has two choices on their approach. They can either take the emergency entrance and go up the stairs to the 60th level, or take the elevator and risk getting caught. The stairs version, which is meant to be humorous, was done really well in the remake. It was incredibly funny, with the voice actors playing off each other's lines. Barrett steals the show here once again. However, for the elevator version, we'll stick with the original because there was more room to explore the building and uncover secrets. There's also a point where you can take a peek at a meeting of the Shinra Company's executives. We will continue to stay true to the original because the changes that were made at this point of the game felt a bit too alienating for a lack of a better explanation. Speaking of alienating, it also felt a little odd that the developers decided to omit the entire sequence of the original where the group was apprehended by the Turks. Again, more changes made the game feel more out of place. What was meant to be blood suddenly turned into Genova's goo, and rather than be straight up murdered by Sephiroth, the Shinra president is left hanging by a ledge. Then Barrett dies, only to come back a few moments later. Genova pops up out of nowhere, and the Shinra president is indeed murdered. The remake plays fast and loose with the tolerance of players in this segment, which is why we're once again going to stick with the OG. However, the battle with Rufus, who arrived shortly after his father's death to claim the Shinra throne, was pretty neat in the remake. This final sequence of the first part of the remake trilogy is stunning, because it recreates the Hardy Daytona minigame in spectacular graphics. It even extends it and gives players new abilities to wield, making the escape from Midgar a true thrill. And just when it's all blending so well, Sephiroth and his whispers appear out of nowhere and it all goes haywire. I think for this segment I'm willing to give it to Remake just for how the developers recreated that minigame and for how fun it was to get to play it all over again in modern day graphics. Everything else we'll just ignore. One of the most iconic segments in video game history, the Nibelheim Flashback, also serves as the opening for the second part of the Remake trilogy, also known as Rebirth. In the original, it served as an introduction to the game's main antagonist, Sephiroth. Rebirth goes even further, using the advancements in technology to better showcase Cloud and Tifa's hometown and the story of how the iconic villain fell from grace. The dark undertones, the fire in the village, the screams of desperation, and Sephiroth's glance as he looks back at Cloud before walking through the flames to meet with his mother, it's all given great care in the updated version, giving players a more detailed look at Sephiroth's descent into madness, all while carefully leaving out some important details, with Cloud being the narrator of this story. In the original FF7, Kalm served as the first location the player had the opportunity to visit after escaping from Midgar. It opened up their view to the world, giving them the knowledge that there's so much more to see in this game than just the city of Mako. However, the technology of the time made Kalm appear rather quaint and limited as an area, with just a small inn and a few shops worth exploring before heading out to resume the adventure. Rebirth brought new life to this area, with players being able to further interact with the locals, introducing a great new addition in Queen's Blood, or even providing the chance to complete a few side missions before moving forward. You also get to interact with your own group, and once you do decide to leave, rather than simply walking out like you do in the original game, you're hunted out by Shinra and are forced to take an underground passage. Kudos to the devs for making Kalm such a great experience out of a town that was mostly irrelevant in the original game. Both in the original and in the remade versions of Final Fantasy VII, the Chocobo Ranch provides access to the franchise's trademark birds, which help the group get out of a large swamp and reach the next part of the journey. Players of the updated version of the game will have the opportunity to revisit this area and speak to its caretaker, Chocobilly. However, the original game made it feel a bit more accessible and less bloated. The ranch has been brought to life in Rebirth, but there's just something so special about the original that feels hard to turn your back on. While this battle is entirely avoidable in the original game, in the remade version it's one of the most significant battles and the first major test for players. The snake monster is not to be taken lightly no matter what level you're playing at. But what truly feels out of place here is what occurs after the fight. Cloud gets eaten and Sephiroth appears out of nowhere to seemingly rescue him. The beast is left impaled on the rather sharp remains of a tree. The image strongly resembles what players were met with after they crossed a swamp with their chocobo and before they entered the next area of the original game. However, in Rebirth, the entire scene feels forced, almost as if the developers had to get that image into the game and ran out of ideas about the method. The original version draws a sense of awe about the power of Sephiroth without much effort, which is why we'll stick with that one once again. The Mythril Mines serve as the access point between Midgar and Junon. This is also where the players are introduced to the newest and youngest member of the Turks, Elena. Apart from that, this was mostly a forgettable dungeon in the original game, with the remade version doing what it can to spruce it up, including the addition of new sections that split up the group and a new boss battle. The music is the real highlight of this segment, making the player feel as though they're exploring a cave full of wonders. With the new additions, the remade version of the Mythril Mines is easily the best way to go. This part of the game is really interesting because although there have been some serious changes in the remade edition of FF7, it's hard to argue that they're bad. Although players no longer have access to the area known as Fort Condor, which was one of the most significant places of the original game, mostly because of the minigame that you could play there to defend the fort from Shinra troops, the remade edition gives players the chance to further explore this region, learn about its history, and best of all offers them a revamped edition of the Fort Condor minigame. This part of the world was already neat to begin with, but now it's even better. Point to Rebirth. The port city of Junon represents the second largest city in the entire game, and for good reason, as it is also owned by Shinra. The harbour town also serves as the connection point between two of the three main continents in the original game's world. However, because the group does not have access to this VIP area, they are forced to head to the small town beneath the harbour, also known as Under Junon, to find a way to infiltrate before the parade for the presentation of the new Shinra president, Rufus. Both of these locations are magnificently represented in the remade edition of the game, with the introduction of some new characters and scenes that add further depth without derailing the script or changing the way things played out in the original. Additionally, the view of the high wind at the top level of Junon serves as a nice treat for players, leaving them wanting to jump into the driver's seat of the iconic airship and travel the world. Rebirth easily clinches this one. The group hitches a ride on a Shinra cruise ship that heads to the other side of the world. In the original, this part of the game saw the entire party dressed in sailor suits in order to blend in, which was a pretty funny scene. However, the remade version changes things up, giving the group a chance to relax and mingle with the rest of the passengers and even participate in a card game tournament before all hell breaks loose. Now, I'm not gonna lie, these changes felt a little out of place at first because what was meant to be a cargo ship was changed into a cruise ship. But the Queen's Blood tournament helped the changes feel more natural. We'll give this one to Rebirth as well, if only by a narrow margin. Costa del Sol is the first place you visit on the new continent, and it has the vibes of a luxurious island resort. In the original game, there really wasn't much to do here, apart from conversing with the locals and potentially purchasing a really expensive house for Cloud, which essentially served no purpose. But it was a nice location nonetheless. Rebirth gives it new life, adding some flashy hotels, some interesting side missions, some more minigames, and even a boss battle. So it's hard to argue that this isn't the most fun version of this area. Rebirth takes this one as well. The group continue their hunt for Sephiroth and go over a mountain. In either version of the game, this area is similar to the Mythril Mines, just a place you need to get through to reach the next area. But Rebirth makes it unnecessarily long, splitting up the party for no apparent reason, adding puzzles that no one asked for, even putting in a couple of boss battles or story sequences that feel entirely out of place. This surely isn't an area that will be remembered by fans. On the other end, the original had some interesting surprises for those who were willing to explore these areas and some nice audio tracks to accompany the players, but otherwise it just served as a connecting point for the next part of the game, which is how it should have remained. The OG version is definitely how we prefer to cross Mount Corel. Whether in the original or the remade version, this place is a dump. And there's good reason for it, which Barrett takes the time to explain. However, in the new edition, it all feels a little out of place. As you can see, they have a physician and even a bar. In the original, it was just a group of huts, which felt more appropriate for a place that was struck by a disaster. The representation here missed the mark, and the original version best depicts the aftermath of what took place here. Looking for a fun place to go? The Gold Saucer is the place for you. Whether you're in the original or in the remade edition of Final Fantasy VII, we can guarantee that this is a place you'll always remember. Rebirth does a lot more to bring the spectacle to life, but in the original game, this area made you wonder how they could fit so much in just a video game. The minigames, the different sections of the theme park, the battle arenas, it's all so grand and fancy. For the first time in this video, it's difficult to make a choice between which version of a location is the best because they both make such strong arguments. So we'll call it a draw. This space is located at the base of the Gold Saucer and is home to all types of criminals. It is where Cloud and the rest of the party end up after being falsely accused of murdering a group of innocent people who were simply enjoying the attractions of the theme park. As the name implies, there's nothing much to see here. However, the local gang members have taken it upon themselves to use any trash they can find lying around to create some working facilities. In the original, this is limited to just a few shacks here and there, but the updated version of FF7 goes further beyond that to showcase a bar, an underground arena where prisoners battle monsters for prizes, and even a tiny chocobo stable. But the toughest and craziest among all those who were imprisoned here is being kept far out of this area at the outskirts of the desert where they can do no harm. This deeply dramatic part of the game is best depicted in the updated version, where the voice acting and the detailed face visuals really do wonders, showcasing the emotional turmoil that the characters are going through and the wounds that they carry in their hearts, largely due to the actions carried out by Shinra. In the original FF7, Gongaga was hardly an area worth visiting during your journey. Granted, there are a few interesting cutscenes here that the player might miss out on if they choose to drive by without stopping in, but other than that, there isn't really anything else to do. However, another game in the Final Fantasy VII universe, known as Crisis Core, made Gongaga extremely significant to the overall lore, establishing it as the hometown of a rather important individual. With that in mind, the developers decided to expand Gongaga to more than just a skippable location, all while maintaining its identity as a village out in the middle of nowhere. There's more to the story about why the people here choose to live in isolation, and Rebirth provides that context to the players. They also learn more about the issues that occurred with the Mako reactor built by Shinra in this area, the first of its kind. This updated version was the perfect chance for the developers to show Gongaga in the way it was truly meant to be seen, and that's exactly what they did. Next stop on the journey is Cosmo Canyon, the ideal destination for all planetologists and nature observers across the world of Gaia. It is also the home of everyone's favourite four-legged hero, Red 13. Both versions of the game show this place as being very attuned to nature, with massive outdoor campfires where everyone can come together and share their thoughts and concerns about everything that's going on. It serves as some kind of midway point in the game, helping the characters understand that there's so much more at play here than just their own personal struggles. And the one that helps them reach that understanding is Red 13's grandfather figure, Bugenhagen. During your stay at Cosmo Canyon, there's a scene where the old planetologist takes Cloud, Aerith, and Tifa into his study to explain to them the importance of the lifestream and the implications of its use as a form of industrial energy. This scene was already impressive enough in the original game, but the remade version upgrades it to film-like quality, making it look like something you'd see at the movies. Once again, the remade version of FF7 gives this area the time it deserves to deliver the messages it wants to the players, while the developers make some clever additions that blend in harmoniously with everything else that's going on, almost to the point that they feel as though they could have been part of the original game. For all that, and more, we'll say that this part of the game is best enjoyed in its newest version. We've already spoken about this town, but since the player gets the chance to revisit it here, it might be worth a second look. In the original, the player simply enters the village, and if they weren't paying attention to the flashback scene in Kalm, they'll think it's just another town. There's literally nothing to let them know what's going on, or to show them what's going through Cloud and, most importantly, Tifa's minds at that moment. Their hometown was meant to have been razed to the ground by Sephiroth, yet everything is right back where it was supposed to be. Why? Who did this? Both the location and the emotions that the characters are going through are once again best depicted in the remade version of FF7. However, there's one area within the town of Nibelheim that doesn't really work as well this time around. This estate, which is privately owned by Shinra, has really changed from the old days. First of all, players can no longer access the upper levels in the remade version of FF7. Secondly, there's an elevator that leads to the basement, rather than the old school set of rotunda stairs. Thirdly, Rebirth forces the player to go through an extended dungeon sequence within a third or fourth basement under the estate that's occupied by a series of monsters and drawn out sequences that honestly feel deliberately long, just so that you have more of a reason to stay in this area. But the most disappointing change of all is that Cloud no longer encounters Sephiroth within the basement's laboratory. Randomly bumping into Sephiroth within that gloomy room was such a memorable scene, yet it no longer exists in the updated version. It almost makes you wonder why they decided to take it out. The Shinra Manor was best the way it was, and we'll always remember it that way. This is where things get messy. The story between the original and the remade version begin to divert quite a bit at this point, which is why players may not be too fond of this new depiction. It's worth pointing out that this place is hidden in the original game, while in Rebirth it's blocked off until you reach the final chapters. Cloud's group, Sephiroth, and Shinra all attempt to uncover its location in their efforts to get their hands on a potentially world-threatening item known as the Black Materia. But the remade version takes this a little too far. Hollywood-style battles, screen-altering puzzles, Cloud going all murder-happy even against his own allies, and, to top it all off, a final sequence that almost makes light of what was meant to be a highly dramatic scene. With Sephiroth taking over his mind, Cloud eventually hands over the Black Materia to the One-Winged Angel, putting the entire world at risk. After that, he collapses and begins to doubt his own sanity. At least that's how things play out in the original game. The remade version shows none of that, and chooses to replace it with Cloud chasing Aerith on top of some branches that appeared out of thin air, while the rest of the party watch on without even trying to stop him. It's a poorly written scene that pays little tribute to the source material, almost to the point of mocking it, which is what makes sticking with the original content a relatively easy decision. The final location of the second entry in the Final Fantasy VII Remake project, this is where one of the most tragic scenes in video game history takes place. In the original game, players were forced to go through an entire series of puzzles that involved digging through an excavation site and waking up in the middle of the night to locate this area. However, the remade version skips over all of that and simply has the party located somehow, thanks to Cloud's instincts. The original version of this area was eerily quiet. There was nothing here. No battles, no cutscenes, nothing. Almost like the game was trying to tell you that this is a city forgotten by time itself. You could explore as much as you wanted, but there was nothing to find. The remade version skips over all of that, opting to replace it with nonsensical battles that try to create a sense of urgency. It's worth pointing out that the area looks stunning thanks to the updated visuals, but that's hardly worth anything if you cannot actually explore it for yourself. There's some hope that players will have the chance to do so when they revisit this location in the third and final game of the trilogy. However, until then, we'll only have that opportunity in the original game, which will remain our preferred version of this location. In regards to the death of a certain someone, I don't think it would be fair to do a comparison just yet, since some parts of that scene were purposely cut out in the second game of the FF7 trilogy. We don't know the exact reasons just yet, but I'm sure the answers are right around the corner. And who knows, we might do another video then. So there you have it. Those are my views on the locations of Final Fantasy VII in both the original and updated versions. Do you have any arguments with the opinions voiced in this video? Are you looking forward to revisiting any of the other places that are meant to be added in the third game, such as Rocket Town, Icicle Inn, or even space itself? Sound off in the comments. Also, if you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel on YouTube for more stuff like this. Until the next one, my name is Shadowhunter867, and I'll see you soon.